So leo nimekuja kama anko wako. Sijui kama unaweza ona nguo zangu. Hizi zinaitwa anko na pesa. Na leo nitawaambia vile naangalia Kenya kukua ama nikue diaspora. Boom. I am honestly the best Swahili speaker you guys have probably ever heard. But what I just try to say in Swahili is today I have come as your uncle. I don't know if you guys saw the fit, but even down to the shoes, these are called the Uncle with Monies, Uncle Monies. And today's topic is how do I view Kenya as a diaspora? If you don't know what a diaspora is, someone who's left their country and moved to another country. So how do I view Kenya, my home country, now that I live in the US, New York City, most of my life? So, boom. Where do we start? As a kid. When I came here as I was 4 years old, when I came here as a 4 year old, I don't know what I just said, I knew from the jump that my home is back in Kenya. I remember that the family that hosted us, because usually when you immigrate to another country, usually you're hosted and you live with another family that you know from back home for a few months until you get on your feet, and then you get your own place. That's how a lot of people get here and get settled. So the family that hosted us, they had a kid, and he had toys. I liked toys, and I remember I was asking that kid if I could take his toys back with me to Kenya, and I'll bring them back one day. I don't know how I was gonna get back to this new land because I knew that I was in a new place, and I knew that my home is where we left. So I was asking this kid, can I take his toys with me, and I'll bring them back one day. So that tells me, even from a kid, I knew that my home was Kenya. Now, as I was growing up, a lot of the narrative was that Kenya is it's your home, but all the opportunity is here in America. Like, this is where you're gonna go far, A, B, C, D, and that's true to an extent. I would say that that narrative is not based in sand. There's there's a base, there's a strong base to that narrative because America does have a lot of opportunities, right? So you get through schooling, you go to college, you leave college, start life, working, 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 and now you leave your job and you want to go back to Kenya. Now, how am I viewing Kenya now as a 26-year-old ready to move back? Um, I would say that that narrative that I grew up with. Let's start. No, no. I still view Kenya as home from my 4 year old self leaving there and coming to the U.S. So Kenya's still home to me. Two, that narrative that I grew up with as a kid, uh, I don't necessarily believe in it. It's like faintly being erased for the simple fact of the world that we live in. Now, I would say growing up, that was true to an extent for the most part, right? Now, when you look at the world and how most jobs are going, a lot of things are online. A lot of the things we do is online, internet. I've worked as an engineer for 5 years. Not one of those years that I go into work, I started off remote and I stayed remote since COVID until now. So, I don't believe in that narrative. And now, how I'm looking at Kenya is based off the growth that I've seen as a kid growing up, from what I remember, the memories that I have of that, to every time that I go back, the different changes and the growth that I've seen over the years. So I could even start off with just like let's start off with those memories, right? Uh, what I remember from when I was 4 years old is the general layout of my area, like around my home, and how to get to this auntie's house, how to get to the main stage, how to get to the main road, where the school is, all that, the church, the small shop, the mamamboga, all that. When I went back, the main road that I had remembered as a kid, so my 4 year old memory of our main road was a bumpy, potholed, 2 lane road. When I went back when I was 14, oh, and along that 2 lane road were a lot of trees and house here, a house there, a house there. When I went back when I was 14, that road had been dualed in the sense now it was not a small pothole road. It was 2 lanes this way, 2 lanes the other way. And those trees were gone. Those houses were no longer houses. They were 14, 15-story apartment complexes. So this is a span of 10 years from a 4-year-old remembering just a dirt road, not dirt road, a paved road with potholes, always traffic, trees and small houses here and there, to 10 years later, 14-story, 15-story, 20-story houses with a road and a median and different things. Then I go back, I think about 5, 7 years later. I think I was like 20 or 21. And that dual road that I left when I was 14 was now a 8-lane, essentially highway with service road. No, 4-lane highway with 2 service lanes on each side. So 8-lane road. So when I left, it was 2. When I went back when I was 14, it was 4 lanes. When I came back when I was, I think, like 20 or 21, that road was now 8 lanes. So it's like it was just doubling every time I come back in a matter of like 5 to 7 to 10 years, whatever, that 10-year gap. So, in addition to that, when I got out the airport, they were building the expressway. Nairobi skyline was not what I remembered. The tallest buildings that I had seen every time I went back were now shorter and shorter, and there was something new dwarfing it. And then when I went back this recent time, just a few months ago, it was just like, oh my gosh, this is not anything that I had left even just 4 years ago. Because the amount of the average Kenyan is probably living in Nairobian is probably living in a flat that's at least 5 to 8 stories on average. There's a lot of them which are like 20, 40, not 40, 20 stories, 17, all that. And it's like, it's common now. It's common to see that. So the amount of cranes that I saw in the air, the amount of high rises that I saw coming up, the amount of foreigners that I saw visiting, even my plane leaving JFK was full of no longer, Indians and Kenyans and some tourists. It was a lot of African Americans now going to visit Kenya. It was a lot of uh, a lot of just random people that you would not expect to see on the flight to Kenya. Let alone, since we're talking about flights, now there's a direct flight. When I would first go to Kenya, you had to take a connecting flight somewhere. I think they started the JFK direct flight. Maybe 10 years ago, but still, it didn't exist. Now that's an actual major trip. I think they do that line 5 days a week from JFK to Nairobi. So that tells you that that's a busy line, and it's usually sold up. So I've seen Kenya grow a lot from memories. Now let's talk about potential. The potential that I see in Kenya, I think, is not only seen because of me being a diaspora and being from there. I think that there's a lot of people seeing that right now. You're seeing a big movement online. If you follow travel things, you already know that Kenya is a big travel hub in Africa. I think it's top 10 travel places within Africa, right? And there's been an influx of, oh my gosh, there's been an influx of a lot of people now exploring Kenya, whether that's other Africans or other Africans from within Africa going to explore Kenya as this hotspot place. You're seeing a lot of Americans going there too. You're seeing a lot of people from different countries going there to vlog because it's a tourist spot. It's a tourist attraction. It's a world spot. Some of the best safaris, some of the best beaches you'll find on the coast. So it's like the world is aware of Kenya's potential. The world is aware of Kenya's beauty. So for me to be a diaspora and still sit here and act like America is just this over-sitting lord that like nothing can beat, I can't get the same quality of life, I'd be lying to myself. There's many people who are leaving and moving to Kenya right now, right? So that whole notion of the best life you can create is going to be in America. That's gone. That's out the window. You're seeing so many Americans go to South American countries. They're going to places like Brazil. They're going to places like Chile, this and the other. The expat life is real. A lot of people are leaving. I know people who've left the U.S. and gone to other countries. And then you have the the world hubs of like how do I explain this? The Singapores and the Dubais of the world. I see Kenya being that of Africa, in the sense of, yes, you have South Africa, which you are competing against, but at the same time, South Africa is it's not the same culture. I would say it's a lot of people view it as more westernized. I'm not on here to throw shots or this and the other. I'm talking about general perspective of the world of how they view Africa. They view South Africa as like the charm, the child, and all that. And you see a lot of Europeans there, and a lot of different people move there, and all that. But at the same time, I don't think they're as stable. And then you have Kenyan politics getting in the way of a lot of things. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of potential in Kenya. I see that within like 5 to 10 years, a lot of the diaspora, if they are not investing back now, they're going to be priced out of certain areas. Like you're going to be pushed further and further back of where you can afford. And I've seen that personally. I've always been online looking at land and looking at how much prices of homes in Kenya are, or the condos that are coming up. And over the years, even though I couldn't afford it at the time, I would slowly just see those prices rising and rising and rising and rising. So to summarize like all of this, I've always viewed Kenya as home. I grew up with the narrative of the best life is only going to be created here in America. That's gone. I've seen Kenya grow from my memories of from childhood memories to every time I went back, it would be something new, a bigger building, a new highway, this or that. And then I think the biggest mind blowing, if I can add one more into that topic of my memories, no, let's talk about the infrastructure. I went to visit my grandma, and I had full bars on my phone. And my grandma lived somewhere pretty rural, away from the main town and main roads or um, main highway. I would say pretty far off the beaten path, in a sense. And I had full bars, just scrolling on Instagram at my grandma's house. Every single time I had gone back home to visit my grandma, it was like nothing. Now I had full 4G. I remember like I had to disconnect anytime I was visiting my grandma. Now I was actually able to go on online and view things and post and take pictures and say, yo, look at my grandma's house or grandma's compound with beautiful trees and all that. But I was supposed to be summarizing. You guys see how I go on rants. I really hope the camera's not shaking. But to summarize this whole video, I view Kenya as a sleeping giant, in the sense of it can be a giant in its weight class. You can't compete with other countries on population and probably GDP. Well, yeah, you can compete on GDP, but other countries are way bigger than Kenya. You have neighboring countries that are competing. And then I have to add a new topic. We're not summarizing. We have access to the sea. We have landlocked countries around us, like Ethiopia, who are trying to get a line and a port through Somaliland or Djibouti, because or no, I think they're done with Djibouti. They're trying to get a, a piece of land through Somaliland to get a port. We just built Lamu Port, which is already going to serve Ethiopia and South Sudan, and you also have Uganda, and you have other inland countries. If you just go past one of those, there's a lot of potential for Kenya's growth just on that alone. There's landlocked countries, and we touch, I think, 5 or 6 countries. We touch Somalia, Ethiopia, South Sudan, Uganda, and Tanzania. 5 countries that surround us, but Tanzania has water and Somalia has water. So 3 countries that are landlocked around us. Now, I'm going to try to summarize this again, but there's a bunch of things that pop up in my head. Let me just spew out. Is there anything else that I think Kenya sells me on? I would say a world awareness. a lot of Kenyans are online. Whenever I'm online, just surfing the web and looking at anything, boom, in the comments, I see a Kenyan flag or a Kenyan name or Kenyan just throwing Ruto must go somehow into some random post, and it just sends me because I'm just like, yo, there's so many Kenyans online, and there's so many spiders biting me right now. Oh my gosh, there was a spider on me. I'm sorry, but let me try to summarize this. Kenya has always been home, will always be home. At one point, Kenya couldn't provide me with the same luxuries that I grew up with here in America. Those times are gone. Kenya has a lot of growth potential. I've seen it grow already, and I see the growth happening from the 30 cranes that I saw in the air just in Nairobi when I was there for a short time. If I don't start setting something up, I will be slowly and slowly priced further and further. Now, that's if I don't make more and more money while I'm here. So, with the growth that I've seen, with the memories that I have, all the family that I have back in Kenya, I view it as it's time to pop. And within a decade, the idea of moving back to Africa or moving to Africa is not going to be seen as like a. The idea of moving to a country like Kenya is going to be like, oh, okay, I know somebody who lives there. That's how I see it's going to be at some point. So I hope this video hasn't been too long. I hope I've given you enough insight. If you have anything that you would want me to add, any other perspective of how I view it, I'll be happy to do so. But I can feel the wind is picking up and I don't want it to shake the camera too much. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I would like to actually organize my thoughts and give you guys a good video, but I kind of like the free form. I like the free flowing think and spew out. And if I forget something and I want to add something, I'm going to just say that. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to try to get better at this. I hope you guys like the Swahili. At the end of the day, I love y'all. It's been a beautiful day. And I'll see you till next time. Bye.